Hey guys, welcome back to Tiny House Customs. I'm Dan. In this video I'm going to show you my rough plumbing setup, and then at the end of the video I'll walk you through how I ran the lines through my exterior wall. So I have videos where I go over my rough plumbing in the basement here. Peanut.
What? I don't get it. Am I blocking your shot or something? Am I in your shot? It's okay. People love me. They want to see me. They want...
Peanut, stop with the... Upstairs. Go upstairs. Now I did change out my pump for a 120 volt pump. I ran electrical wire to it. I also put that wire to a light switch so that if I ever need to shut the pump off, I can just flip the light switch and the pump will be off. Now the accumulator tank, I did some research. When this pump kicks on, which is 30 psi, you want this, a pressure tank, when it's completely empty and there's no water in the system, you want this to be 1 psi above your kick on point. So this pressure tank was pressurized to 31 psi. Now how I figured out when that kicks on, I have my pressure gauge here. I also installed a drain so I can drain the whole system if it ever gets too cold. So I turn it on and I go slowly and I just watch my pressure gauge. So right there, as soon as that pump kicked on, I flipped the light switch so it shut the pump off, and it's right in between 20 and 40, which equals 30 psi. So after I did that, I drained the system out completely so there's no water in any of the pipe, and I pressurized that tank to 31 psi. You can just take a bike pump or a tire pump and pump it up with more air or take some air out. After that was done, I know that that tank's going to take as much water as it possibly can. So I can close that, kick this light switch back on. Now when I kick it back on, the pump will kick in, it'll fill the tank. Now when it's filling the tank, all the lines are getting pressurized as well. When it reaches its PSI cutoff point, which is approximately 55 PSI, it'll shut off automatically. Now you can hear that pump, it is a little loud, but when you're upstairs, it's not that loud, and I can also insulate around that pump, and it won't be as noticeable. So after I had my system completely finished, I could run my hot and cold lines. So this system is designed for a single-use household. What that means is if I'm going to run the dishwasher, I can't take a shower. If I'm going to run the washing machine, I can't run the dishwasher. So off of this manifold, I've run a hot line and a cold line. This line right here is going to go to a propane on-demand hot water heater. After it goes through that system, it'll come down this line right here and it'll feed the house. Now you can see here I have a T. This is the hot line coming in, and it tees off right here. This is going to go to my washer and dryer, and this cold line is going to go to my washer and dryer, and these two lines are going to go to the kitchen to operate the sink, dishwasher, and then it'll go to the shower and also a sink in the bathroom. Now I want a propane on-demand hot water heater, and the one that I've been looking at costs about approximately $500. Now I don't have the $500 to spend right now, so what I've done is I've purchased a small outdoor propane on-demand hot water heater for about $100, and I'm going to install that on the outside of the house. So what I've done is just run my feed line out to the outside and the hot line out to the outside. Once I get to my location where I'll continue building and I'm going to be living in, I'll connect that system in and I'll have hot water. Once I have the $500 to purchase my hot water heater, I can cut these lines and put some 90s in it and connect into my hot water heater, which is going to go somewhere in this location, maybe. I don't really know. It could end up going here, because every time I say I'm going to do something, I end up doing totally different. So I've set up a temporary kitchen, so I have a sink. I can brush my teeth, I can shave, I can wash my dishes. Ew, that's gross. You don't need to be in a tiny house. So you can see I installed my plumbing drain pipes. This could be a code violation. I'm not sure. Drilling through a jack stud, I don't really know if that's allowed, but I've really taken away a lot of structure by drilling through this jack stud here, and also all these cripples. Also, this pipe isn't pitched perfectly. Since there's no solids running through it, I don't see it being a problem. I didn't install a P-trap in this drain, and I won't be installing it in any drain because I plan on installing one P-trap in the end of my line when it's draining out into the backyard, basically. Now this is just a temporary setup right now. This will end up getting cleaned up and looking a little nicer when I do my final kitchen, but I just needed something so that I can live for now. A major downside with my drain plumbing is that I have to have it basically flush with the outside of my plywood here. It was the only way I could run it so that it's not exposed on the inside of the house. Now I figured that 1.5-inch pipe had a outside diameter of 1.5 inches, but it's not. It's actually 2 inches, I believe, and the inside is 1.5 inches. My original plan was to just notch that 2x6 that's bolted to the side of my trailer, run it behind the plywood, in between the steel and the plywood, so you wouldn't see it, but it wouldn't fit. This looks like crap, but the functionality is still there. I'm going to attach a coupler here and I'll drain it. I'll connect them all together and I'll drain it out the back of the trailer. That doesn't look too bad. I just have to remember when I'm doing my siding not to nail right here and basically all the way up, because that pipe is basically tight to the outside. There's going to be no water standing in this pipe, so I don't have to be concerned about it freezing. It's not how I plan to do it, but what are you going to do? As you can see, I've got cold water, and as soon as I get to my location, I'll have hot water hooked up as well. But both those lines are now running to my, my sink. Now, because I have the accumulator tank, if I turn this water on, that water that's coming out, it's the water that's in the accumulator tank. Once that accumulator tank gets completely empty, because it's set at that 31 psi, it'll push all the water out, the pump will kick on. What the accumulator tank does is it prevents the pump from short cycling, which can affect your pump over a long period of time. So if I turn this water on, you can see that I have a lot of water that comes out, and at a decent pressure, and this water is all coming out of the accumulator tank. That was about a minute. Bam. So it took about a minute for the water pump to kick on, which means I have a minute of water before the accumulator tank is completely empty. Now I can change this out for a low flow head so that I'm not consuming as much water, and I can do the same thing with my shower head. I'm so impressed by that. I'm always thinking about questions that could come up in the comments, and one question that I could see is, will this thing maintain a constant pressure once the accumulator tank is empty? So I'm going to turn this water on, and I'll go in the basement and I'll show you what the PSI is. So the pump kicked on at 30 PSI. So the PSI stopped rising, and it's a little bit over 45 PSI. It's still rising a little bit. It is going. It's actually 50 PSI now. So the pump actually shut off, so it's capable of producing more water than I'm actually consuming with the sink faucet. Now I'm not sure what kind of flow it's getting, but you can see that it's dropping down. Remember, I'm not a plumber, so this could be complete code violations all over the place. I don't really know. I don't really care because it works. So I started roughing in my plumbing. I'm using 1/2-inch Pex for this. I don't live in a really cold climate, but I do drop below freezing every once in a while. I pitched this pipe. So I put a mark down here, and then I put a mark over here about 2 inches up. So it's slightly pitched. If it ever gets really cold and I need to drain the system, I can open all the valves on the faucets and stuff and drain the system so water doesn't stay in this pipe. Running plumbing is pretty easy. If you need water in a certain spot, you just run a pipe to that spot. And what I'm going to do is I'll cut the pipe right here, and I'll tee into it, and I'll have a hot and cold place to connect the sink into. Right here will be a shower wall. So I'll end up cutting this here and having a T coming off for that. And then I plan to do a sink here. I'm not sure yet if I can find a small enough sink, but the sink will be right in this location. So I'll have these pipes end here, and I'll 90 it up to the faucet. If you plan to run your pipes through your wall like this, and you need to go through a corner, you're going to have a problem. Because right here, I can't get my drill bit in here. I wouldn't be able to bend this pipe on that tight angle. So what I need to do is go on the outside and cut the plywood so I can make a 90-degree fitting, and then I'll stick the pipe in and connect into this pipe, and I'll do all that work from the outside right there. When you're running PEX, it's really important that you don't kink the pipe. This stuff can take pretty gradual bends. I mean, this is probably the extent of it. Anything more than that, it's going to kink the pipe, and that'll weaken it, so you don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the outside. I'm going to cut the plywood so it's 1/2 and 1/2 on this stud, and then I'll go all the way to the corner, and then I'm going to cut it approximately at that height so I can do some work in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from this plywood to the center of the stud, which is 6 7/8, and then right where these two pipes are, I'm going to put a nail right in the center, and I'll know from that nail to come up 6 inches, come down 6 inches, and that's where I get my height cut. Now eventually I'm going to add in a piece of metal protecting thing right here so that I don't nail into this. Typically you would do plumbing after the exterior of the house is sided with whatever you're doing. Since I'm going to be shooting nails into this pretty blindly, I put the pipe more towards the inside of the house, and I also did that for the cold because I want to get a lot of insulation behind this. If I could, I would have put that pipe directly on the inside of this stud, but I put it in about 1.25 inches. So right here's that nail. First thing I'm going to do is peel back the Tyvek paper. So remember I butted into that plywood, so I'm gonna go from that plywood 6 7/8. You know what? I got a line right there already. Just gonna go with that line. And from that nail, I'll come down 6 inches. I'll come up, square that across, set my depth to a 1/2 inch on my circular saw. Now if you had a nail puller, you could pull these nails. I had lost my nail puller a long time ago. I'm going to save that piece of plywood because I'm going to need it later. If you were going to do your siding before you did your rough plumbing, you could have a T in here and put it in before you do your siding. After your siding's all done, you can come back and connect this pipe into this pipe with a splice. So I have this really long drill bit. I'm going to try to get a hole from here out to the outside. Now that I have that hole drilled, I can take a larger bit and go from the outside and drill it in. Again, with this heat, it's just so hot. I tell you, if you're going to build one of these, build it in the fall. Spring or the fall is the best time to do this type of work. So I have my 2 holes here. I can just make that hole larger with a 5/8 bit. I didn't have a long 5/8 bit, that's why I couldn't do it the other way. So I need 2 pieces of pipe to run to roughly right here. I'm going to run them a little long. So I'm going to measure from this plywood to, I'll cut them 5 feet. So I'll cut 2 pieces at 5 feet and I'll connect them into a 90. And then I'll stick them in from the outside through all these holes. And then I'll connect this pipe into that 90. So I made a mark at 5 feet on my floor. So I'm just going to hold the end on the mark, and I'll cut this to length. Again, I'm not a plumber. If you are uncomfortable doing plumbing work, make sure you hire a contractor plumber to do this section. But to me, this is something that most people should be able to do. Just take your time, think about what you're doing, do some YouTube research like you're doing right now, and you should be able to figure it out. So there's a bunch of different ways to connect these. There's different types of crimp rings you can use. From the research I've done, the copper compression ring is one of the best ways. The only downside is this extra tool that you have to buy. Now you can buy one that's specific for 1/2 inch, which is $50, and one that's specific for 3/4, specific for all the sizes, but they're $50 each. I bought this one with interchangeable heads. You just lift up this ring and you can take these out and put in the different sizes that you need. And it was $80 if you didn't watch my other videos. So I'm going to take this compression ring and I'm going to keep it about 1/8 inch away, a little bit strong, 1/8 inch away from the end of the pipe. I'll place it into my jaws of life, which is the hardest part. Crimp it down, uncrimp it, and then I'll check it with the go or no go. Now I tried explaining this in other videos. When you put it in, it should stop. You don't want it to go all the way up to the top of the loop. If you went all the way up to the top, you did it too tight. Now I crimped a lot of them too tight, and I did some research and I couldn't find out what was wrong with crimping it too tight. So now I can go back and put these pipes in. I'm just going to stick them into the first stud and I'll go and run them in all the way from the inside. So now I can just run these all the way to where they got to go. I also pitch these down too, so the whole system is pitched slightly down. Good. That's cool. So now I can run this pipe out and I can connect it into the fitting out there. So I'm feeding my my other line through. I can't just pull it, because if I pull it I put a kink in it right here. So I'm just going one stud at a time. I'm pulling up on the line, and I'm also pushing on it. So I hit the stud, I put it in the hole, and do it over again. One thing I wanted to add was that you should never run plumbing on an exterior wall. Any plumber will tell you this, but in a tiny house, where else are you going to run it? So you have to run it on an exterior wall. My original plan was to add solar to the top of the roof, which would mean that that side of the house is facing south, so that the house would catch the most solar. And so my original plan was to have all the plumbing run on that wall, so that the sun would heat that wall, and it wouldn't let the pipes freeze, or at least it would help prevent it. But because of the shower, I need to put the shower in this corner because of the ceiling height. I have to run it on this wall. So if you watch my scale model video of this, the whole house basically got flipped kinda. So instead of having the sink on that side, the shower on that side, it just got switched. So the sink will be here, the shower will be here. So both these lines are running out to that corner now. I can go and connect those. So I put those rings on, now I just got to put them into those fittings. And it is a pain in the butt, I'll tell you what. So those are crimped in. That's good. So I have these pipes coming into here. I crimped those in. Just going to put a mark right here and right here. That'll make sense in a second. So I can put this plywood back. Now those two lines are right where those pipes are, so I know not to put any nails right there. I can put the Tyvek paper back. I'm going to be taping all these joints eventually. I just haven't picked up the roll yet. I'm going to transfer these marks out on top of the Tyvek paper. Now when I do my siding, I'm going to snap lines right here so I know that there's plumbing pipes right there, so I don't shoot in there. Or at least I'm a little more careful when I do shoot into it. Also, they sell these little adapters that you can put on here, which will make a nice 90-degree turn. I'm going to get 2 of those, put them here, and probably 2 and put them down there so that these pipes are running it better here. I want them off the wall too. So I'm going to do a full video series of the shower installation. Since most tiny houses have showers, you got to think about drainage, wall placement, size of shower. There's a whole bunch of things that you need to think about. Also hooking the plumbing into the shower. So I'm going to do a huge video series going over this complete installation, which will hopefully be probably right after this video series. Maybe. Who knows? These videos are tough to make because financially I ain't there. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're new to my channel, please hit the subscribe button. Nope, you pointed in the wrong spot because there ain't no subscribe button over there. It's down there. If you're new to my channel, please hit the subscribe. If you liked the video and felt it was somewhat helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Please leave your comments, questions down below. And if you want to show me some love, click up in that top right corner and show your support for Tiny House Customs. Thanks so much for watching, guys.
I love me some cardboard tube. Oh no, I dropped it in the cardboard tube.
Yeah, you love it.
Oh dude, it's amazing. How you like crack? I like cardboard tube.
I don't do crack peen.
Yeah, you keep telling yourself that, you fucking crackhead. You don't do that to me.
Where the hell was I?